Good morning, traders. It is 6:28 Pacific time on June 21st. It's Friday, 2019. Welcome to my trading journal. This is my accountability tool. Keeps me accountable to myself and also to other people now that I am posting it on the interwebs. I try not to trade outside of this journal, and I make sure that I can explain everything that I'm doing. If I feel the impulse to make a trade and not record it, that's a really good indication that you probably shouldn't be making that trade. So that's just the very general rule of thumb for using this as for what its intended purpose is, which is to keep yourself accountable. Kind of like a football player that is, they record all their practices and they record obviously the games and they go back and watch them afterwards, and they sit there with all their peers and they're all watching what happened, and you have that peer pressure, but you also have that self-awareness that this will be made public in the very near future, and you can have people criticizing or critiquing your work, and I think it's a very effective tool for keeping you on the right track. So with that said, let's briefly go through what you're looking at on the screen now. These are futures products. There's 5 of them here. There's the Ultra Bond all the way over here on the left. There's the 30-year here, symbol ZB. This is the ZF, that's the 5-year. Looks like we just had cash open. You can see everything's kind of going bonkers right now. This is ZN, that's the 10-year, and then all the way over here is the ES, E-mini S&P, and that normally works as an inverse correlation to these other markets. So when this is going down, these are going up, and vice versa. So let's quickly look at the overnight. Actually, we have a little bit of time, so there's no reason to rush through this. But here was the overnight Asian session. Just pretty small range, typical. A little bit of movement higher, and then it started to slump once Europe opened, and then we had probably some data or something came out, but this thing got slammed down, and then we've just sort of been going sideways ever since. So it looks like we probably have a bit of a profile shelf here. If we look at the volume profile at 2 even, and we might have something. This looks like it's resistance here at 26.5. So I got, it's 27. I guess I can leave that there. And then we have profile shelf here, 22. That's going to could act as support, maybe. We'll see. Let's look at the calendar real quick. There are a couple announcements coming out, but it's not really a big mover. Existing home sales can be something. The PMI composite, not really. And then we have, looks like we have a bunch of Fed speakers, which you never know there, unfortunately. So just keep, well, I mean, in conjunction with that, you could see the bids and offers are still pretty small. You have 2s and 3s as far as 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Normally we're in the 4s and 5s. So it's going to be a little bit of a frenetic, illiquid market for the near future. So I would suggest, again, keeping your lot size a little bit smaller, your stops a little bit farther, and avoid trading Ultra Bond, maybe even the 30-year, just because they're going to take a couple more ticks when they normally would just, a normal harmonic rotation might be 3 or 4. Or maybe 5 or 6 in these products over here, and they're going to be closer to, 8, maybe 10. Especially the Ultra Bond thing whips around pretty nasty. So yeah, just keep your stops in place, but give yourself a little bit more room to breathe and cut your lot size down. That's my my advice. That's what I've been doing. Taking a few more losses, if I recall. Actually, I've been trading a little bit less. I don't even remember. Yesterday I tried, I don't know if anybody traded yesterday, but I sat through pretty much the entire day, watched that thing power itself all the way to the overnight high, and then I figured it would sit up there for a little while. So I was waiting for a retest. It pushed down a couple ticks, and I was waiting for the retest when it came back up to short it, and it never did. It came up, it sat there for maybe a minute, and then just blew right back down. And then, I mean, if you saw the rest of the day, it came down to a certain level. If it wasn't mid-range, I probably would have gotten long there, but it ended up blowing right through that and went all the way down, and then there was some liquidation break, and it just popped fucking way lower. That was the end of the day, but long story short, there really were no opportunities that I saw other than just selling the overnight high yesterday, and I just wasn't quick enough to get in. In hindsight, obviously it would have been nice to pay up a little bit, because that's the other thing in this environment is, you know, I would not hesitate to pay up a little, just because we're getting a lot of travel and it happens quickly. So yeah, it's a different sort of environment than we've seen over the last few months, and expect things to quiet down. Well, I shouldn't say that, because we have some geopolitical tensions with Iran and all that stuff, so who knows how that's going to affect the markets. But you would expect as the summer comes through, July and August, that things would slow down and thicken up. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. So we're about 5 minutes into cash open. Looking over here in the Ultra Bond and the 30-year Ultra Bond, that step 3-4 area has been holding pretty much all night. Same thing with the 30-year. We'll see if they blow through that with the correlation working over there with the ES. Areas of interest, I think, maybe down here, excuse me, at 20.520. But that's really close to the overnight low. So I would think if they're going to push it down to this level, they might as well push it all the way down to the overnight low. But who knows? I would say the overnight high, maybe this resistance here, but I'm not seeing really enough of a step yet to engage there. So yeah, 25.20 maybe, definitely the overnight low if we see something. And yeah, that's about it at this point. So it's still only 6 minutes after cash open. Got to let things kind of figure out what they're going to do. Got at least another 10 minutes or so. So we'll pause the video. There's no sense running it until we get into something or decide to even evaluate a trade. So go ahead and pause it, and we'll come back if we see something good. Okay, it's 6:41. Looking at the 30-year here and just watching and seeing if sellers can push this through or not, this little profile step. Been having a tough time thus far. So I want to see if buyers kind of step up and start to, thus far they've been holding it. This is the first time that the offer's really pumped up since cash open. And the ES was all the way down at the bottom, pushed all the way up and was pushing the highs, and we had no reaction here, and that's kind of when you expect them to push through, pop a level like that. So they just did it, okay. Just a delayed reaction, that's all. They kind of held it. Take a shot, I think. See if, oh, just got filled. And it looks like we might be getting run over here. Holy smokes. It's pretty erratic, but definitely sellers are trying to push this thing down. This is what you get. This is what should have waited the first few minutes for the cash open. I don't think I'm quite ready to scratch this thing out yet, but definitely going to take it off. It comes. Okay, well, that was unsuccessful. Still too soon to cash open, in my opinion, to be trading. It's kind of a bonehead move. I just figured that once they pop that level, even by a tick, they still can push that back up. So I think it was worth a shot. Only one tick, only a couple tick loss, no big deal. And then we trade right back up to it and through it. Oh, that was the PMI data that just came out. I guess that is a mover. Well, that's my bad. I have that as, well, let's look at the calendar, because that's like even, I mean, that's a black dot. That's not even a mover. Market moving indicator, extra tension. So you got the pink, you got the green, and then a black dot. It's a black dot over here, but yeah, that sucker moved this market quite a bit. Just a little bit of a miss. It's definitely a pretty thin market, but man, damn it, that really sucks. Keep an eye on that. Keep an eye out for that in the future. Anyway, pause video and regroup. Okay, it's about 2 minutes to 7 a.m. Pacific time. Quite a move here. We've had This moved from 24 all the way down to the overnight low in the past, I don't know, minute and a half, 2 minutes. Very similar context to yesterday. Very similar price action where you have some bigger players that are taking advantage of the small bids and offers, and they're just slamming this down. So hardly a back tick all the way down to this level. And similar to yesterday, looking for some sort of pushback here. Clean this up just to see if we can get buyers to hold for a little while and push this right back up, because I think, again, similar to yesterday, this can get all the way back up here to the point of control. Could be a pretty nifty little trade if it cooperates. But we still have that 7 o'clock number coming out. Now I'm a little weary how this market's going to, how it's going to respond to. Yeah, they didn't even monkey around. They just kept pushing that thing right through. So it looks like any little piece of data is coming out is really moving things around. Home sales were up 2.5%. Expected was 1.2. I don't know if that had anything to do with this little bounce that we just got, but yeah, it's pretty erratic price action. I mean, there's really not a lot to read here. I don't know about you, but I'm just not seeing anything that's readable. I'm not surprised they didn't hold that overnight low, simply because the market is pretty thin. So blowing through levels like that is not surprising. That's why I didn't jump into anything yesterday, because of this exact reason. So let's say you just hung an order out there at the overnight low, 17.5. You would have to give that at least four ticks of breathing room. So that's your environment today. So size up or down as far as your lot size appropriately. Even if you were looking for a fade trade, you really had nothing to go off of there to see when that was going to bounce. All right, well, if it drops back in or something, maybe I'll restart the video, but otherwise, I mean, you could try to look for a continuation sell down from 21.5 if you're so inclined. I'm not a big fan of that trade. Anyway, pause video. So, starting to see a lot of volume develop here. Down here at the overnight low. It looks like they're pushing it higher. I think I might have missed it. Let's see if we can get filled. Doesn't look like it. But it's almost kind of one of these situations where they discount this little blow through here. And start to key in on this level again. Yeah, there's just really nothing to read here. Damn, see? 700 in the queue, couldn't get filled. I think this goes higher. Paid up for that. I was a little bit... Yeah, there's really nothing to read here. This is a little bit... This feels a lot like gambling. Yep. This is insane. Come on, get back up there, pop it. I don't think it's going to happen. It's another one of these situations where you're, because I paid up so much, You gotta keep your stop at the low, below the low of the day. It's probably looking like a trend day to the downside. But you don't want to cover your position at the current low. It's kind of silly. It's another one of these where if I really, really wanted it, I should have waited and picked my spot. Way too much like gambling. You know, it's this interesting. I'm trying to evaluate kind of what I feel right now, and I think that missing out on yesterday, that's very forefront in my mind. And I think that's what led to me getting into this trade, to be honest. Not think, I know. That's definitely what led to me getting into this trade. Because I feel like I got left behind yesterday. Didn't want to pay up. So today I'm like too eager to pay up for that exact reason. Instead of just evaluating the exact context of what I'm looking at right now, you know, I'm using what happened yesterday as basically an excuse to be irresponsible and a little bit erratic and respond to what the market's given me in a negative sense, in the sense that the market's being erratic, so I'm kind of responding in kind. So if this does eventually kind of blow through me, then I basically deserve it, in my opinion, just because not trading that very well at all. I think buyers are still, they're trying to push back on this, but I think eventually they'll just get exhausted and give up. Looks like the start of a trend day on the downside. I think my second mistake too is allowing that second fill up here when I knew a little speech before excuse me, before the day started. I was talking about cutting lot size and keeping it small. This isn't a big lot, but it's about my average size, and I should have been scaled that down a little bit. So far we're just looking at a double bottom in the ZN here, but I haven't seen anything from buyers to indicate this isn't going to go lower. So if this is in fact a trend day, then where would resistance be on the move back higher? It would be at the overnight low, which looks like we just bounced right off of that and coming back lower. Try not to be too optimistic, but I'm seeing this big print, 10,000. And a little bit of a profile shelf start to develop here. Also seeing sellers absorb all the buying right here at 17. So when buyers push that up, sellers are just sucking it all up and pushing it right back down. Really, the only thing that would bail us out now would be a bit of a collapse in the ES. So if the ES starts pushing highs, I think we are fucked. The opening range in the ES is pretty small. So that's indicative of like a low vol environment and just grinding higher. Takes initiative selling to really push that thing down. Otherwise it just floats, grinds higher. if I wasn't already in this trade long, I would probably try to get long here at 16.5, just because of what I'm seeing right now. It's worth the 2-tick risk to see if this would push all the way back up to the point of control. If we can get through the overnight low. That's going to be the chore. So we just need kind of a confluence of events here. We need the ES to start selling down, and we need sellers to give up that overnight low. I think they would give it up if the ES started to sell down. And obviously we need buyers to stay active as they are now. Look at this number 14. Buyers just keep slapping that thing down. It's going to take some beast to push through. Try not to be optimistic, but if we do get through this overnight low, if we get through this level, the next resistance would be 20 up here. I don't like this pausing. Okay, good. If you want to take it out, it's going to take a lot to get through this level. 17.5, 17. Also a reminder, this is quad witching still. This is quad witching week, so the June contract for the ES, I think it expired yesterday, and today you have options that expire, or it might be vice versa. I think today is options expiration. That might have something to do with the lack of volume. I mean, if I'm willing to take that loss from the beginning, I should be willing to take it now, although context has changed a little bit. I definitely should have covered that up there. So my saving grace on the last push down here was that the 5-year didn't make new lows. So that could be what we're seeing here is a second chance buying opportunity. We'll see if the sellers relent and let this push back up. So I think this is where they finally popped the lows. You didn't see on that little drop in there by the ES, you didn't see buyers step up and push this thing up. They only got one tick back, so this might be the point where they slam it through the lows. Because everybody's just going to buy the ES back here down at 57 or whatever at the IB high. And it will make new highs, and then this will just blow. It'll just blow right through the low, I think. That's my prediction. I also wouldn't be surprised if we hit new all-time highs today in the ES, just because it's such a low-volume environment. And once things get chugging along at those higher levels, they just keep going and going. People play the breakouts. It'll just kind of add fuel to the fire. Just too much selling. Who sells at the lows, man? You got to really want it. You know what I mean? These guys really want to sell this shit down here. This is it. This is where finally pop it. Well, that's it. That's all she wrote for me. I got to be other places, so this is looking like a trend day. Sellers are definitely in control at this point. Tough read. That was really poor trading on my part, and I'm licking my wounds going into the weekend with a bigger than normal loss, which kind of sucks. Anyway, I hope you guys are trading well. I hope you didn't make the bonehead moves I did, and you're more patient. Sellers are just overwhelming buyers today, and it is what it is. So have a good weekend, y'all. See you Monday.